You know the moment. Your baby has finally fallen asleep on your chest. The room is quiet, your arms are numb. You lower them into the crib like you are defusing a bomb. And then, their eyes snap open. Sometimes it happens before their back even touches the mattress. Sometimes there is that tiny gasp, that sudden squirm, that offended little cry that makes you think, how is this even possible? They were deeply asleep a second ago. And in that moment, a lot of parents land on the same painful thought. Maybe my baby just hates being put down. But what is really happening is much deeper than most parents realize. Because when a baby wakes the second you lay them down, it is usually not stubbornness, not manipulation, and not proof that you are doing something wrong. It is the collision of biology, sleep state, sensory expectation, and an immature nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. And once you see that clearly, the whole experience starts to feel less like failure and more like a window into how your baby's brain actually works. And the first surprise is this. The explanation most people give you is only a tiny piece of the story.
A lot of people will tell you the answer is simple. They will say it is just the startle reflex, or that your baby got too used to being held, or that you made a mistake by rocking them to sleep. And yes, those explanations contain a sliver of truth. Babies do have a strong Moro reflex, and sudden changes in position can trigger it. Babies also learn sleep cues, and if they fall asleep in one condition and wake in another, they can protest. But that still does not explain why even very young newborns do this. Why some babies wake during the gentlest transfer imaginable, or why a baby can seem completely asleep in your arms and then react as if the crib itself is unacceptable. The common explanation is too shallow because it focuses only on behavior you can see, not on the internal state you cannot. What looks like my baby refuses the crib is often a baby moving from one sleep state to another, checking their environment, and discovering that everything changed. The warmth changed, the pressure changed, the smell changed, the movement stopped, the heartbeat disappeared. Even the angle of the body changed. To an adult, that might seem minor. To an infant nervous system, it can feel enormous. So if the crib is not the whole problem, and your baby is not trying to outsmart you, the next question becomes much more interesting. What kind of sleep were they actually in when you tried to put them down?
One of the biggest reasons this happens is that infant sleep is not built like adult sleep. Newborns and young babies spend a huge portion of sleep in lighter, more active states. In the early months, sleep cycles are short, and babies spend much more time in active sleep, the stage where you see flickering eyelids, little grunts, facial expressions, twitches, uneven breathing, and sudden body movements. To a tired parent, that can look like deep sleep because the baby's eyes are closed and they were quiet a moment ago. But inside the brain, this is a much more unstable state than it seems. Babies also move between sleep states more often, and they partially arouse much more easily than adults do. In other words, your baby may not be waking from solid, settled sleep. They may be surfacing during a naturally fragile stage and reacting to the transfer right in the middle of it. That is why timing can feel so random. Sometimes the transfer works because the baby has moved into a deeper, quieter phase. Sometimes it fails because you are catching them at the exact moment their brain is more alert to change. This is also why parents often say, I waited until they were fully asleep and it still didn't work. Fully asleep can look very different from truly settled into deeper sleep. And even that is only half the mystery, because sleep state explains why babies are easy to wake, but not why being put down feels so different from being held.
Here is the deeper twist most parents are never told. Babies do not just fall asleep. They fall asleep inside an environment. And your arms are not just a place. They are a whole sensory world. In your arms, your baby feels warmth across the side of the face and chest. They feel constant pressure around the body. They smell your skin. They hear your breathing and voice. They feel subtle swaying, tiny posture shifts, even the rhythm of your walking. Their body is being continuously informed, minute by minute, that they are close, contained, and safe. Then, the transfer happens. Suddenly, the surface is flatter, cooler, stiller, and more open. The body loses motion. The head angle changes. The torso no longer feels your chest rising and falling. During a microarousal, which babies have often, the brain does a fast check of the environment, and if the environment no longer matches the one where sleep began, the nervous system can fire back into alertness, not because the crib is dangerous, but because mismatch gets attention. In evolutionary terms, that makes sense. Human babies are born neurologically immature. They are built to depend on proximity. So when parents say, "The second I put my baby down, it's like they knew," they are right. They did know. Not in a manipulative way, but in a sensory, biological, deeply wired way. Your baby's brain was tracking the difference the whole time. And once you understand that, the question stops being, "Why is my baby so difficult?" and becomes, "What is my baby's nervous system trying to tell me?"
What it is telling you, most of the time, is not "you are failing." It is saying, "I am still learning how to stay asleep when the world changes around me." That is a completely different message. It means your baby is not broken, not spoiled, and not trying to control you. It means their regulation is still external, more than internal. Your body helps organize their body. Your rhythm helps steady their rhythm. That is why being held can feel like magic, and why the crib can feel, at least for now, like a harder place to remain asleep. As babies grow, their sleep architecture matures, their nervous system becomes more stable, and many gradually get better at linking sleep cycles without needing the exact same sensory conditions. But there is one gentle caution worth remembering. If your baby wakes often, that can be normal. If your baby sometimes needs contact to stay settled, that can be normal too. But if there is a sudden, major change in sleep, or your baby seems unusually uncomfortable when laid flat, or you notice fever, trouble breathing, persistent pain like crying, poor feeding, or something that simply feels off to you, that is worth paying attention to and checking with your pediatric clinician. And no matter how frustrating transfer struggles are, safe sleep still matters. A firm, flat surface, on the back, with no loose bedding or soft items. Because understanding the psychology of sleep should always sit next to protecting it. And once you hold both truths together, the final reframe becomes incredibly powerful. So the real reason babies wake up the moment you put them down is not just that they like being held. It is that their sleep is lighter, their arousal system is more sensitive, and their brain notices when the sensory world changes from warm, moving, held, and familiar to still, flat, and separate. That tiny wake-up is often the nervous system reacting to transition, not rejecting the crib, and not rejecting you. And for a lot of parents, that realization changes everything because it replaces shame with understanding. It reminds you that what feels like a nightly failure is often just normal infant sleep psychology playing out in real time. Your baby is not giving you a hard time. Your baby is having a hard time with a very big neurological job, learning how to stay asleep without the body that helped them get there. And that learning takes time. So if this is your house right now, take a breath. You are not creating a bad baby. You are watching a young brain develop. If this helped you see your baby a little more clearly, stay with this channel.